What's up everyone, Andrew Baena here, and on today's video I'm going to be showing you the Odin 3 plugin from Solemn Tones. So if you're not familiar with what the Odin 3 is, it is a virtual guitar instrument. So it is doing basically exactly that. It's taking samples from an existing guitar, in this case an LTD Stephen Carpenter 8-string, sampling all of that so that you can program the guitar yourself. So you don't even need to play guitar or record guitar or anything like that. You can just fully MIDI program a guitar performance. Solemn Tones is no stranger to these types of plugins. They've made a ton of different bass libraries as well as a few iterations of Odin. Obviously we're on Odin 3 now, and recently they just updated it to Odin 3.1. So even though this plugin didn't come out that long ago, due to customer feedback, they already upgraded it with a bunch of new features, which we're going to talk about and show off in this video. So you already heard how the Odin 3 sounds in a full instrumental mix in that intro mix there. That was a preview of an upcoming Carcosa song tuned all the way down to drop E on an 8-string guitar, but fully programmed using the Odin 3. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to show you how we programmed that performance, as well as talking about a few of the new features and the upgrades made in the Odin 3.1 update. So with that being said, let's switch over to the DAW view so I can show you what's going on. Okay, so I have my Reaper session open here with 3 instances of the Odin 3 plugin. One of them is only doing a very short clip at the intro here, which sounds like this. So we're not going to really talk about that one too much because most of the interesting stuff is happening over on guitar left and guitar right, which you can see right here. So what I'm going to do is open up the Odin 3 interface, which looks like this when you first open it up. As you can see, it has a graphic representation of the guitar that it is sampled from, again being the LTD Stephen Carpenter 8-string as seen here. I'm not going to do a deep dive on all of the specs and features of the plugin, but more or less you have options at the top where you have factory presets where you can use a DI. You can have both guitars in one instance of the plugin, or you can have guitar 1 and guitar 2, which is the way that I've done it. And also one nice thing that is included with the Odin 3 is that it also has an amped tone. So if you don't want to run it through something else, like in my case, I'm using the Gojira X plugin. If you don't want to do that, there is an included tone that you can use. Another awesome thing is that this plugin does not use Contact. I'm familiar with Contact, I use it all the time, but I love when plugins don't make me do it because as everybody knows who's tried Contact, it's a bit of a pain in the ass, especially when you have to route. So big props to Solemn Tones for never using Contact. I really appreciate that. So yeah, again, we have the main window, playing window, and advanced window, and this is where you can see a bunch of the different settings. So on the main window, you can see you can switch between which pickup is going on, like so. You can play with the pan. So again, if you had guitar 1 and 2 in one instance of the plugin, you can pan it accordingly if you'd like. A big knob for humanization, which is awesome, so you don't have to go in and play with each individual MIDI note. And then you have the tone over here, which I have selected as the DI, but you can do rhythm, lead, or clean as well. Moving on to the second window, this is where you can have a lot more control of the playing style of the plugin. So you can enable human noise, which is very important to make it sound realistic. You can force vibrato, soften attack, and even select which string you want to be played, which is really, really nice. As we all know, if you play guitar, you can play the same note on the 12th fret of the low string that is the, 5th fret or 7th fret on the string above it. And even though it's the same note, it's going to sound different because of the timbre, thinner strings, thicker strings, all that stuff. So you can actually select which string is being played for which note, which I will show you in a minute, but that's kind of one of the areas where you can do that. By default, it's going to try its best to guess automatically where it should be going, but naturally it's not going to get it perfect every time, and you can actually MIDI program where those go, which is awesome and will again help bring up that realism factor even more. Next up, we got the advanced window. I didn't really touch this too much, but this is where you can do things such as select the different tuning options. It has options for sliding. Again, you can turn on auto slide, select the slide speed, bending intensity with mutes and others, and you can also enforce the pick attack with additional impact right there. Last but not least, you also have a list of key switches up on this side of the plugin, and this is where you're going to see each MIDI note and what its corresponding function is. So again, it's one thing to program a song in MIDI, but it's another thing to add that extra layer of realism. So you can see here there are a ridiculous amount of options for that. So like I was mentioning earlier, you have this string selection setting where you can select which note is being played on which string, whether you want it to be on the 8th string or the high string, so on and so forth. You can also program things a little bit faster using these velocity triggers. So if you don't want to go in and add all these key switches, there are a few here that are enabled, which you can kind of quickly do by just adjusting the velocity. So you can see if you have a MIDI note at the max velocity, it's always going to be a pinch harmonic. Anywhere from 35 to 126 is alternate picking. Palm mutes is 34 to 25, so on and so forth. So if you want to just do it that way, that's a lot faster of a way to do it. And then over here is where you have all the extra options, alternate picking, down picking, up picking, so on and so forth. Tons of options to add realism and make sure that the performance you're getting from this plugin is as close to possible as how you would play it in real life on a real guitar. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to play one of the guitar tracks by itself so you can hear it outside of the context of a mix. So it's going to sound like this. So that's a good example of how it sounds on its own. And again, I'm using the Archetype Gojira X plugin for the tone. If I turn that off, you're just going to hear a DI like so. You know, you get the point. You can also use the built-in tone if you want by selecting the rhythm tone. But in my case, I chose to go with DI because I liked the tone that I was getting using the Gojira plugin more, and it's the tone that I use pretty much all the time for my 8-strings anyways. So I'm going to play through that section one more time, and what I want you to do is pay attention to the key switch list here, as well as the active text box here. So it's going to be showing you which key switches are activating as the thing plays. So you're going to see what I have done is I've forced it to be selected on certain strings. I've used pinch harmonics, I've used alternate picking, and I think the palm muting function as well, so you can hear that and see that like so. So like I said, as you can see, when it's doing that fast little beta, 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 I had it selecting string, I think 5 and 4. And then I was also having hammer-ons, pull-offs, and pinch harmonics all within that really quick section. So next I'm going to close this plugin and show you what that actually looks like when you program it in MIDI. So as we can see here, for the palm mute sections, it's all these guys. Very, very simple. Like so. Right? Makes sense. And then over here, when we have that faster run, you can see that there's additional MIDI notes at the bottom and at the top. So these notes at the top are basically forcing the guitar to play using the strings that I would play on a real guitar. So again, I believe that's string 5 and 4. And then down here, we have additional key switches. So this is where it's selecting whether it's a hammer-on or a pull-off. When you play it, it sounds like this. Right? Makes sense. So it's pretty easy to get a very realistic performance like so. And then over here, we have a pinch harmonic, which you can see is just the same note, except the velocity is maxed, which sounds like this. And again, I'm forcing that pinch harmonic to be on a specific string using these key switches up here. The last thing I wanted to mention before I get out of here is the fact that you can obviously double track this. And the reason that that's important is so that you don't get phasing issues and you can get a nice stereo image. Because as we all know, when you record guitar, you always record a guitar to the left and to the right. So to do that, like I said, I have the left track, for example, using the guitar 1 soloed DI. And then if we look at the right guitar, it's going to be the opposite of that, and we're doing the guitar 2 solo DI. They're both playing more or less the same thing other than a couple of harmonies. And then of course, in your DAW, you're going to pan them hard left and hard right. So if I play those two by themselves again, you'll hear it like so. Okay, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and as well, a massive thank you to Solemn Tones for sponsoring this video. I've worked with Maxime over at Solemn Tones for a number of years now. He's always making really cool plugins, and this one is no exception. It's honestly pretty shocking how realistic you can get this guitar plugin to sound. Once you guys hear the actual release of their Carcosa song in about a month, you be the judge and tell me what you think. So again, a big thank you to Solemn Tones for sponsoring this video. The link to the Odin 3 plugin is going to be in the description and the pinned comment below. And also a massive thank you to all my Patreon members whose names are on the screen at this point in time. If you're interested in audio downloads, guitar tabs, stems, or a shout out on the screen like these lovely people here, you can get all of that over on my Patreon page, which is also linked in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.